A problem a lot of people seem to have when composing their beats, whether they're sample-based or writing parts from scratch, is that they add multiple melodies and chord parts that just aren't effective. They don't complement each other, they are often too similar, so there's no contrast and they don't really contribute anything to the overall soundscape. And the worst thing is that they often clash with each other, which makes the whole mix sound muddy, and to top it off, these clashes often prevent the whole mix from being turned up louder at the mastering stage. So I'm gonna share my approach to doing this, and I'm gonna go through all the parts in this beat. Which will hopefully help you form your own strategy of doing this in a way that's more effective and makes your tracks sound richer and fuller. So let's begin. Starting off with a simple boom bap beat as a foundation. I don't even think these drums sound all that great, to be honest, but that's besides the point. We have our foundation. Then I add a shaker loop to get a more rolling feel to the drums. And generally adding a faster 16th note rhythm like this one with some high frequency instrument like a shaker or tambourine fills the space between the sparse boom bap beat and adds energy and urgency. Then we can move to our first harmonic instrument, and that would be a short and stubby clavinet part with a wah-wah effect. I'm playing the main chord progression with it, and I treat it as a percussive instrument. It's like I'm still playing the drums, but with a clavinet. And this is a staple in funk music. Even melodic and harmonic instruments are played rhythmically, like drums. So this clavinet part adds a funky character and vibe to the whole beat and leaves plenty of room for the main piano part. The piano chords basically follow the clavinet chords, so the chords that are played at any given moment between the two instruments are the same. If they weren't, it would probably sound a bit off, even if they were in the same key. Two different chord progressions playing at the same time is quite hard to pull off in a convincing manner, especially in a way that the listener can actually grasp what's going on in the track. So this is a neat approach to layering chords. Even though they don't actually sound like they're layered, this is what is actually going on. And the piano part is more static. It's not rhythmic, but rather provides a nice bed for all the other things that I'm gonna layer on top, and doesn't clash with the clavinet at all, because their timbres and envelopes are so different. Okay, so onto the bass line, and I often get comments from people asking me how I make my bass lines. Honestly, there isn't a secret to it. Make it rhythmic, make sure it follows the root note of the chord that's playing at any given moment. But don't just play the root, add some other notes from the chord, the 5th, the octave, the 7th, just experiment and see what works. In fact, in the right context, pretty much any note can work for those filler notes that fill the space between the main notes of the bass line. By the way, guys, if you're enjoying this video and you find it helpful, smash the like button down there and subscribe to the channel for more tutorials, beat making videos and content around Ableton Live, Maschine and other production platforms. Check out my packs from the link down in the video description, and getting one really helps me out and helps support the channel. Alright, back to the beat. Alright, so here we go with the first melody. So far we had chords and bass, no melody, and this one is more of a supportive one. Not the main lead melody, this is a monophonic line, only one note playing at any given moment. key thing here is to make it very simple so that it will work with the other melodies that I'm going to add. In terms of the actual instrument we're using, choosing an instrument with a vocal quality adds color to our sound palette and some human touch. So generally when adding new sounds, I'm going for sounds that are distinct and sounds that actually contribute something to the actual mix. Otherwise they have no place in the mix, they are just taking space and are just cluttering up the mix. And they need to have a distinct timbre that differentiates them from the other sounds. Like the next one, the Irish harp. It's a very simple melody, mostly playing the D note, which is the 5th in our key of G minor, and occasionally going to the G. It's very monotonous, but that again leaves us the option to add yet another melody after this one. Otherwise, if it was a more complex melodic line, it would sound like a lead melody, and the chords changing beneath this slightly more monotonous part add a nice feel to the whole thing. And the Irish harp, being a mellow sound, means it doesn't overpower the mix, but adds a nice sparkle and atmosphere without being too present. So a nice background sound that works well with the previous one, which was a more pad-like sound without any distinct attack, while the harp has a more percussive sound and adds this nice ringing. I often use glockenspiel or other similar mild instruments for this kind of part, but using a plucked string is pretty cool too. And to make sure these don't overpower the mix, I'm sidechaining them to the drums, which cleans up the mix but also adds a harmonic aspect to these sounds. So this enables the drums to cut through all these layers and makes the overall sound punchier, more present and not washed out. And now for the lead part, we're using a synth lead, which in terms of a timbre will cut through the mix, and being thin sounding won't take up too much space. Because the mix is already quite crowded, we don't want to add more fat and juicy sounds. We just don't have the space for it. So a thin synth or a brass or a woodwind instrument would work well for this. Just making sure it's played in a higher octave so it doesn't clash with all the other instruments. In the end, I ended up doing another line with this lead, even simpler line, but I think it works well. But obviously it still needs to be mixed to make it sound good, so check out my mixing video up here and I will see you there.